You're listening to Sleepy Time Sports on Hatch Plus.
I'm Jeremiah Coughlan.
And I'm Joe Simons. Today, we're talking about Caitlin Clark, which could mean 55 things.
It's a broad topic.
It is.
That is for sure.
But she is I would say, the most talked about athlete of 2024. The college season, basically going right into the WNBA season, is fascinating. And recently the NBA Finals wrapped up, and if you were to watch a lot of the talking head shows like a First Take and whatever they're doing on Fox Sports, Caitlin Clark is ahead of the NBA in terms of interest, which is fascinating. And it's not as though Caitlin Clark is the entire WNBA. It's not what we're suggesting, but her celebrity is shining a new light on the league in a way that wasn't happening in the past 3 years. And in the past 3 years, there's already been more interest. So it's almost like the bonfire was there and getting bigger on the beach. And then your drunk buddy came up and he just dumped a big bucket of gasoline on it. And now the fire is so big, it's impossible to ignore.
Yeah, that's a great analogy because it seems like it's everywhere. I mean, if I just open the ESPN app on my phone looking for scores or whatever, the highlight of the day, the clip, the talking point, all of it, Caitlin Clark's going to be in there. There's a lot of heat behind it. And as far as, her as a player, her as a person, like it's become this, I don't know, it's like it's in the zeitgeist. Like everybody knows about it. Everybody talks about it. There's just like so many layers to it. And then all of a sudden in the WNBA, is she good enough? Is she really the greatest? Is there, there's like all this sort of like counterpoint to the hype that was there coming out of college. And, oh, well, she stayed in college too long and the people she was playing in college were younger than her. And, it was like her playing against these folks that maybe didn't have the skills, and now put her in with the, basically the greatest female basketball players that have ever lived is really what the WNBA is comprised of right now.
Yep.
And off the jump, didn't start great. And then it's like this machine that is sports talk has to have fodder, right? And so it immediately is like, well, maybe she's not as good as everybody thought.
Were we wrong?
Yeah, were we wrong about this?
Coming up next,
like,
Traffic on the Sevens.
Yeah. Give her a chance.
Well, it gets to a point where if the only opinion you can have of someone is they're great, then the only way to get attention for the opinion is to dissent what the majority opinion is. And that is that Caitlin Clark, maybe not so good. Were we wrong about Caitlin Clark? And what's so funny about it is because there's so much attention on everything related to sports now versus 10 years ago, 20 years ago, certainly 30, 40 years ago. If you look at how the Bulls did when Jordan first got into the league, like the Bulls didn't win a championship until Jordan's like 8th season. It used to take a long time, and we used to be very patient with athletes. And now Caitlin Clark stumbles out of the gate and everyone's beating her up because she's a rookie, and that's what you do with rookies. You treat them like they're not superstars because typically rookies aren't superstars, and until you prove it in the new organization that you're in, well, you're not a superstar in that organization. You were a superstar in college. This is the pros. This is different. So she's going to get roughed up. And I saw someone with a really good take on it because there's been a lot of discourse around, is she being treated fairly? Is she a bust? Do we need to be patient? All these sorts of opinions. And I heard someone say, the only person being normal about Caitlin Clark is Caitlin Clark. She's basically reacting appropriately. She's just sort of being even keeled. She's taking it in stride. She has the long game because she is very young. Look at Diana Taurasi.
Yeah.
Diana Taurasi is 42 years old. She's on the Olympic team, and she is still a very productive NBA player. Sue Bird could still be in the league. They're the same age, but she chose to retire because she just says it takes a lot of work. So we're potentially looking at 2 decades of Caitlin Clark in the WNBA. So pumping the brakes is not a fun thing to do, but I think it's the appropriate thing to do.
Yeah. Also, it's one player.
Right.
On a team sport. They're not the quarterback. They're not the pitcher. They're not a goalie. Like, if you put even a great player on the court with 4 other people that have historically, I'm not saying they're bad, but I mean, I couldn't tell you what the Indiana Fever's record has been over the years, but like dropping one great player, like that example, LeBron, those first years in Cleveland, I think they won like 30 games.
Yeah, I mean, there were flashes.
They were a sub 500 team for sure.
Exactly. And LeBron was in the same boat. It took them, I think, probably a half dozen years, 7 years before they reached an NBA Finals. So because there's so much attention on her, I actually find it remarkable that she has been able to keep such a level head. And part of that is probably where she got so much exposure at Iowa in her college career to this level of scrutiny and these insane standards that she is probably uniquely equipped to deal with it. I mean, you look at the other rookies in her class, like a Cameron Brink or an Angel Reese. In another year, they would be the star. And they are stars, for goodness sakes. They're both tall. Yeah. They're both appealing on the court, off the court. There's a lot going on with the both of them. But because Caitlin Clark is this supernova and Fox and these networks were like really putting together serious deals to keep them in school, to keep Caitlin Clark in school, rather, if she was going to leave, like they were going to offer Caitlin Clark millions of dollars to stay in school because they had the television rights to the Big Ten basketball. And that means a lot of eyeballs and advertising. So it would have been worth them to make that sort of investment in Caitlin Clark. If you're dealing with that sort of stuff and you're still in college, I think you can deal with Stephen A. Smith talking about you on ESPN in the morning.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that I find so interesting is sort of the angles that are taken by big sports media around all of this, and it's like there's sort of this undercurrent of, I don't know, the sound bites definitely make it sound like everyone that's not on Caitlin Clark's team and that isn't Caitlin Clark resent her for
existing.
Yeah, and it's like, well, people are already saying that the fouls that she gets called maybe not be as fair as what everybody else gets. And, there's just like all these little talking points. And it's like, I don't know if that's like whole cloth necessarily. I'm sure there's plenty of people in the WNBA that are very grateful that the exposure is there, that the level of play is raising, that all these things lead to better situations for everybody, like the rising tide lifts all boats, right? And so people like focusing on those few folks that are like, oh yeah, she gets foul calls that she shouldn't get, blah, 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 right? When it's like, it was like a one-day story when they said like, oh, we're going to take the WNBA teams off of commercial airline flights and start giving them charter flights. And that was a big catalyst for us because there's a bunch of weirdos that were chasing Caitlin Clark around. And it was like, we're either going to pay for a bunch of security to be on these flights, or we're just going to get them, like their own charter flights. And if you're a traveling athlete, like what would you rather do? Would you rather be, in row 30 on a Delta flight, to go from Indianapolis to Seattle? Or would you rather have your own chartered flight where it's just your team and you can be comfortable and, be yourself and, do teammate stuff
right
in that situation, and it's like that right there has to be enough for you to be like, okay, well, this is good for everybody. I mean, of course, the talking heads are going to spin it to be like, somebody's a prima donna and they can't take the, and it's like, no, I mean,
think about this for 2 seconds.
Yeah, that's like not what's happening. And it's just the media is the media. Like they have to have things to talk about, but it seems very obvious to me that in the situation that I'm in the WNBA and I've been there for 5 years and haven't really seen any of this attention or fringe benefits of this becoming really part of our culture, right? People love to see it. People are paying attention. I'm definitely going to lean towards the fact that this is making my situation better, and I'm happy about it.
Well, I think to maybe sort of wind things down a little bit, I think there's a perception that if a veteran player from the Chicago Sky or the LA Sparks fouls Caitlin Clark hard or plays like annoyingly tough defense on her, that they don't appreciate what this, and I won't even say her, but what this rookie class is bringing in terms of attention. There's a new media rights deal coming soon, and that they don't know in the back of their head that all this attention is going to lead to the WNBA potentially being profitable very soon, which it has not been since its existence. Mm-hmm. You can foul Caitlin Clark hard and play tough defense and treat her like a rookie while also understanding the benefits of having her in the WNBA. Those aren't two exclusive thoughts. And I think that's the thing that gets lost.
Yes.
These women are highly intelligent professional athletes. There's no way that they're thinking, oh, I wish Caitlin Clark wasn't in this league. Of course they do. It's like the Tiger Woods effect in the PGA Tour 30 years ago. Yes, the old veterans probably resent all the attention he was getting. You know what they don't resent? Getting $100,000 for finishing 40th in a tournament where before Tiger came, that check had a few less zeros on it. So you can be annoyed. You can treat them like they should be, which is a rook. But that doesn't mean that you don't understand the big picture.
That's a great take. It's just so funny to watch. I mean, I think going back to your original point about the long game here, I don't know how long it's going to take. Like, Caitlin Clark wins a championship in the WNBA and has a decent team around her at some point, and they're going to dominate people. And it's, it's always this like early panic from people. They're like, oh, the sky is falling. Like, we were wrong. All of these things that are going to get clicks, are going to get attention. And my favorite thing about big sports media is that there's no accountability for what you said yesterday.
Yeah.
And you can just be like, oh yeah, Caitlin Clark's a bum. No good. We were all wrong. And 2 years from now, when they win the WNBA trophy, be like, oh, I knew it all along. I always said she was great.
Yeah. Well, it's so funny you say that, because
easily my favorite part.
I remember, and this is a little bit of a tangent, so I'll make it quick, but I remember when Minnesota in the recent NBA playoffs, they won 2 games in Denver in the second round. And I remember Stephen A. coming on the next day and saying, the Minnesota Timberwolves are going to win the NBA championship. There's nobody that can stop them. And then in the next round, after they had barely survived the Denver series in 7 games, they got waxed in 5 by the Mavericks. And it's like, we're all prisoners of recency bias and short-term results. And I just like that as a fan, as a growing fan of the WNBA, I've been interested the last couple of seasons because it's been really good and my fandom's continuing to increase. I'm just happy that we all get to see Caitlin Clark and also Cameron Brink and Angel Reese and all the great rookies and veterans in this league, and just kind of watching it where it's going to go, because we're too young to remember the inception of a league that has been very successful. And I think it's cool that we're all a part of that right now.
100%. I love that. Go Caitlin Clark.
It takes time.
100%. This has been Sleepy Time Sports. We've handled the sports, so you can handle the sleepy time.